So I know that much like the context of my videos, that this is a very bleak setting and not the best format for platforms like YouTube. Um, but I'm kind of just desperate at this point to just have a place to truly talk about my emotions and my thoughts, because from where I'm sitting in society, there really is no way to have a sense of community or to be seen as an actual person, except for like various anonymous platforms like Twitter or Reddit, which believe me just makes it worse. And my days are so empty and so sickly and so lonely and lost at this point that even if it's just posting on YouTube or TikTok or wherever for 0 views, which is really sending me into a really deep depression, realizing how truly irrelevant I am to those platforms. But regardless, just being posting all my junk and all my stuff, in terms of thoughts, just for the sake of it. I mean, I certainly know that in the golden age of YouTube, which apparently isn't really a thing anymore, that there used to be a lot of mentally ill girls like me that used to find relief posting their brand in a certain kind of way. I feel like times have changed, and I feel like people don't really care about YouTube or brands anymore. And if anything, people kind of just make fun of influencers for how fake they are. But just for me personally, I'm literally just at a point where I just want to talk about anything and everything because every day is so empty and so lonely, and I have so many thoughts just about how empty and how fucked up this all is. I truly feel like I've been told that, I have been directly told that I don't matter and that my days of being treated as human are over. You know, community is over, friendship is over, connections are over, unless you're an influencer or unless people care about you in some way or unless you have an it factor that makes you exceptional. And I have fallen into severe depression and alcoholism for years now because I've come to realize that I am just a person who is truly just completely lost in this thing called social media and the internet. I used to have my thing. I'm one of those more introverted, like artistic people, and I was very content with that when I was in college and when I had built in real life community and I had an identity through that. And platforms like TikTok or YouTube or whatever were more so just like, hobbies or just like casual consumption. And nowadays I have found myself in this complete and absolute emptiness, sitting around in a house by myself if I'm not at some slave soul crushing job. And that's a whole other story because I don't even want to work those jobs. I really don't. In the sense that I'm on the verge of owing myself. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that it was my dream to be in the entertainment industry in some way. Even if it was just as a receptionist, I would have taken it, or just anything at all. Something that had to do with art and the soul, and not just like being in some stagnant routine of, at the very least, not just sitting in front of a screen like a robot, just pressing things over and over again. And at the very least, not doing just the being a customer service. And when you take into the account of the fact that people literally make fun of people who work customer service anyway, and on top of that especially make fun of the whole trope of like someone who wants to be in the creative industry and telling them that they don't have the skills or that they didn't have the ability or the way to be able to make that a reality. And as a result, they're working some terrible job, and people will literally actively tell you to your face and make fun of you and say, oh, your life is shit, but it's not my fault to get to work. I actually did read a comment like that after working a shift part-time, working customer service and fast food. And it's literally the reason why I quit my job, because I was already so unhappy anyway, only for 2 months that I worked there, but it was enough. For me to realize that it's not a tolerable lifestyle to be that miserable. For years now, I have been spending literally my time realizing that truly any hope for connections towards a fulfilling career has been long since been non-existent for me. I have never felt so small and so invisible in my entire fucking life. The severe depression that I have every day is fatal. It's a miracle that I don't act on it. The only reason why I don't is because I live with 3 family members that would make it very traumatizing for me to do so the way that I have in the past. But I'm literally hanging on by a thread every single day, and I don't want to be here. My soul is crushed. I do everything. I do art, I do music, I write novels. As much as a singular person can, I do everything that I can to feel like I have some humanity and soul. But at the end of the day, I'm still just a lost, boring, single person who has nothing and no one, no connections. I remember when the Oscars came out a year ago. I was sitting in the living room with my mother, and I saw all these actors that I've heard about and knew about. And, there was all the awards and all the music and all the A-list actors and the flashiness and all of the important people, the people that matter in society. There's kind of there's stages in society. There's like the A-list actresses and actors who get to be in mainstream media. There's the pop stars that are above them, and then there's like the YouTubers and the influencers, and then there's the people like me who are in none of those categories, and they're just a faceless cog and a slave. And you can try to express yourself and put yourself out there, but probably more than likely your life is so boring that there isn't really anything to share about, and if there was, nobody would care. The only thing that I feel like I have going for me is my youth, and that's fading. And I've subjected myself to an empty, loveless life, but it is a constant battle every single day, especially when I was so close to being in the industry, and I am filled with so much grief, and time just passes. It really does, and I am like so severely dissociated and depressed. Like time literally just flies in the worst way, like in the sense that my head is just fog every single day, or black depression, or a fight in some way, and no amount of hobbies or art or personal projects changes that, because I fucked up any chance of being able to be anything artistic or soulful or known as anybody. And what's even worse is that like everybody, I consume things and I become hyperfixated and obsessed, but even that has become the bane of my existence, or at least one of the things, although there is one thing above that that is far worse. And what that is that even when I do become fixated on a piece of successful art or media, there's usually an active community for it. And those people, I've noticed, fandom has become very, very toxic and full of people that just want to constantly remind fans that they don't matter, and that they're just a consumer, and that they don't have the skills, and that they weren't involved in the project. And that has pushed me over the edge in ways I can't even express, because I'm just into it for fun, obviously, and for therapy, the same way that anyone's ever obsessed or into anything. But the combination of like the really rude Reddit groups and things like that has truly gotten to the point where it's truly fried my will to live in ways that I can't even explain, because even the places that used to give me relief, like being hyperfixated on a piece of art for whatever reason, has gone to a point where even those people remind me that like nobody cares about you, you're just a fan, you're lazy, you don't matter because you didn't work on this, as if it was my choice, as if it's my choice to only be a consumer, or as if I wouldn't make a difference or make a piece of art or be involved in something, as if that's not already what I do with my free time all the time anyway. And I've gotten to a point where I've truly lost my mind so much that I'm literally stooping to recording videos of myself talking, which genuinely, for my life personally, has never really made a lot of sense for me, just with my personality and with my lifestyle and with where I live, which is in the suburbs. I don't live in a city. I don't live in California. I don't have any connections or friends. I'm very alone and very boring. But I'm so desperate just to express any kind of sense of identity that I will literally settle for anything in terms of being And honestly, at this point, I'm just looking for any kind of sense of identity that I can get, even if it's something as bleak and as depressing as posting on YouTube and TikTok for literally either 0 views or no views. And I've always known my whole life that I've always been a nobody. Like, I've seen the YouTubers and influencers that have like 10 million followers on TikTok and, this reach and this voice just for being themselves. They're quirky, funny, silly self. And I also have a lot going on as a person. I just never publicized it. And partially because I always knew in the back of my head that I just don't have the it factor, which is true. And my life is very bleak and very boring for it. I do think that I'm very eccentric and I have a lot going on in my head for sure. But some people just don't, like, for whatever reason, have the connections or the ability to be able to connect with people online or to become an influencer. And I'm not really necessarily trying to be one. I'm just someone who is truly just looking for a form of self-expression of any kind at all outside of like anonymous accounts on the internet or just like posting on Instagram like one thing that you did for that day. I'm just looking for a little bit of authenticity because you would be surprised, all these apps, all these users, even on here on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, it's all just for brands, and I've been severely depressed all day today because I've realized that posting about how lonely I am actually just makes me feel worse. But it's either that or to forget that I exist, basically, or to be drowned out by a bunch of strangers online. Because when you're just a faceless nobody, nobody cares anything about you and they will treat you as such. And I just want to be able to give myself some relief. And even just talking to this video, I'm already almost at 20 minutes. It goes by so fast because there's no way to have a genuine conversation with anyone as an adult if you don't have any way to meet people or any walkable communities. Dating apps are trash. And the only thing that's left is really just various consumption cultures on extremely rude apps like Reddit or just soulless shit posting. And even if it's just me talking to myself, even if it's just me connecting with myself, which is what I've been doing with creative projects for years, maybe that's just the way that it is. And maybe if I'm all that I have, literally, then it just is what it is and it's crushing. But if it is what it is, then oh well. And at least I can make myself laugh and at least I can connect with myself. It's especially hard because it's nice. It would be really nice if I could be one of those YouTubers, one of those quirky girls that has 10 million followers and that, gets a lot of attention just for staring at the camera or just for showing off their clothing haul for the day. But I feel like people like me just like repel that kind of attention for some reason. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit too like somber or thoughtful, or I don't know. Or maybe it's just the fact that I just can't figure out the algorithm or who knows. Everything on social media is so confusing, but it's made me very severely depressed. I have never felt more unimportant or more soulless in my life. Because you know what? Everything in my life, the only thing that I'm told that I'm good for at this point in my life at 27 is that the only thing that I'm good for is to be a slave to a crushing job with coworkers that actively admit that they don't care about me, straightforward and blunt, where people are constantly telling me both in real life and on the internet that I'm just a replaceable cog. And if I don't express myself or make art, then frankly, yeah, that is kind of what I feel like what I am. And I've been fighting that terrible fucking truth for years. It's hard because everything on social media is either fake or people's highlights mostly. Unless, like I said earlier this morning, unless it's someone like me that just has no followers, no influence, and is irrelevant. And I don't mean that as an insult to other people like me, but it's more so just an acknowledgement of just how fucking hard it is. Because I see these people that have like they have babies, everything worked out for them. People that I used to follow throughout my breakdowns and trauma in the past, they have everything now. They have husbands, they have a mansion, they have babies, and they post about it on Instagram about how they know that they won the lottery because they have a family and they have a kid and they have a husband and they have a place on this earth and they know how lucky they are. And it's crushing for me. Because it is true that in this day and age, something that should be as much of a human right as much as having a kid and a family, it is considered having the lottery. Um, in the sense that those people truly are the luckiest people on this earth, and that nothing is promised. Family isn't promised. Having a kid isn't promised. Being happily married isn't promised. Having a place on this earth is not promised. Being able to live where you want isn't promised. Um, I sit in a stupid house in the middle of the suburbs. I can't imagine why anyone would ever willingly want to live in the suburbs. I would give anything to have people around me. I can't even fathom how dead and bored my energy in my life is every day, and no amount of buying things, recording myself talk, consuming, whether online or media or in general, or creating, can change the fact that I am sitting in an empty house all by myself all day, every day, 24/7, save for my aging parents and people that I barely ever see. And I just don't get how people, I just don't get, especially on days like today, how people just like know that they're just, a slave in corporate America. They have nothing to do with the art industry. They have no soul. They have no connections. They're just a nobody. And they work this boring job and they just go home. And on days off, they just like play video games or they just watch movies all day. And they don't even try. They literally don't even try to like execute some sort of individuality or artistic voice or anything. So many people, everyone that I know, which isn't many people, but even just online, like with all the information you have on Twitter and stuff these days, it just amazes me just how like complacent people are. And I feel so sick in the head, even just thinking about the idea about just going from a 9 to 5 that's soulless and boring with coworkers that actively tell me that they don't care about me, not being able to afford the goal of having a family at the very least, or to have someone to come home to love, or to have an identity as an individual, and just being okay with it. Being okay with the inhumanity of knowing that you truly are just a replaceable cog. And then on your free time, like I can understand if you're having like some sort of psychotic meltdown where like truly down to the bottom of your soul, you can't help but be infunctional because you're so depressed, or because you're going through a tragedy, or because you're alone all the time. But if so many people feel fine mentally, fine enough to make things or to do anything other than just to consume in their free time, and people just don't do it, in the free time they just play video games or watch movies. They're just aimless, and it makes me so sick in the head to think of that aimlessness. And I've lost my will to live years ago because of the fact that I realized that someone like me will never be able to afford a kid. And that was my dream, and that is my end all above everything else, is the fact that I will never have a family. And that in and of it, the whole art and influencer and followers thing is all bullshit at the end of the day. And I know that. It's just a hobby at the end of the day. It would be nice, it would be exciting to be important to the world and to be an influencer. But truth be told, it doesn't really matter. I mean, not in the ways that count. I'm severely depressed because I know I'll never have a family. And there's nothing I can do about that. And I can, on days like today, I can truly down to the bottom of my heart feel the way that my brain is just like imploding with gradual black devastation, realizing that that's not just a negative thought, it's actually the truth. And of course I have my forms of cope, all very typical, maladaptive daydreaming, making art, things like that. And despite the amount of how much people might make fun of that or cheapen it, or how much my negative thoughts might, I find a lot of fulfillment in it. But it doesn't change the raw fact of the matter of how empty life is for people like me. And I truly don't know what to do to change it. And I both love myself, and at the same time, I'm so sick of being a dead and bored nobody like everyone else, and that there's really nothing that I could ever do to change that. And I'm trying to find peace with myself, and I know that it's a lifelong journey, and to not compare myself to the very few successful influencers and pop stars and people, but I just don't know how to not. And I don't know how to have my own sense of confident identity, and it's terrible, and it's very fucking painful. And I just keep asking myself every day, no matter what I accomplish or how hard I work or how positively I try to think despite the severe depression, knowing that I have officially been placed in this category of being a irrelevant American consumer, and that even the things that give me relief or things that I enjoy is a reflection of the nothingness that I am in American culture. Um, how to find peace with the fact that there truly is nowhere left to go. Like, I truly am past my prime. I'm 27. I've been out of college, which gave me internships to California and gave me all these opportunities. And it's so clear that both on a personal level and career level, I am past my prime. And there's nothing that I can do about that. And the most painful part is that everything on social media, which is all that I have to keep me away from my own thoughts, which is even worse than what I'm about to describe, even worse than my own thoughts is, wait, no, sorry. Even worse than, the worst part about it is that on social media, all I ever see mostly is successful, happy, beautiful women who do have their kids that post about how it's the biggest blessing on this earth. And I agree with them. Or it's a bunch of fake shit of, someone making a video about like, watch me open up my newest Amazon makeup package. And that's really it. That's really the only face-to-face real life communication that's available on social media, which really on an average day is all that I have. And without that, I am so sick in the head and so severely depressed and so miserable that it's literally a miracle that I don't like have some sort of odd breakdown, both from baggage from when I was a kid, because I haven't progressed at all since I was a kid. I may as well still be 14 years old in the worst way possible. And I'm just not being able to find any relief because the only socialization that I have as an adult who can't drive is looking at stuff online from successful, beautiful women that have their families, that have their careers, that have their influencer YouTuber channels with millions of followers. And I've never had any of that. I've never had anything but extremely niche neurological disorders and living through other people at times that are posting online. And just various communities and projects and things, and just all very introverted stuff, so much to the point that it's rendered me to a sense of non-existence, which I was okay with back when I had real life community and hope for the idea that one day everything would work out. But now that it's so obvious that nothing will, I have nothing left but talking to the walls. And I can't stand the sickness that's in my head every day. And I don't understand how cruel someone can be to force someone to stay alive, being in the amount of sickness and the amount of pain and isolation and disconnect that I am in every day. I don't feel connected to literally anybody, not even the people on here who rant about how disconnected they feel from people. Do I feel connected even to those people? And it would all be okay, and it would all be bearable. The lack of my dreams being fulfilled, the lack of career, the being a nobody, the being boring, the being, I guess, not particularly talented, despite the fact that I do every artistic endeavor in the book at this point just to stay away the emptiness. But it would all be bearable if I could start a family. And I can't. And there's nothing that I can do to change that. And instead, I'm just alone. Believe when I say that I have no one, I mean I am literally on the way to having absolutely no one. So if I'm boring and if nobody cares about me and if everything that I post is kind of shit, it's no wonder, because that's pretty much what it is, I could talk all day long. Literally, I could talk and talk about how the sickness in my head, the constant battle that comes along with being as depressed as I am. I'm already at almost a half hour and it feels like it's been 5 minutes. But this is the closest thing that I have to a conversation, a real conversation, and I know that it won't change my mental issues. But at the very least, I can go to bed at night and I can always say that in my own way that I tried, and maybe it'll help me find peace with myself a little bit, because I torture myself all the time. Like, if only I'd been a YouTuber like that woman that has everything from YouTube. If only I had done this, if only I had done that, maybe my life would have turned out kind of okay. And I know that this won't work, but at the very least, I can always say that I tried. and that I've tried everything and that I'm doing everything that I can. And truthfully, no matter how pathetic it is and no matter how painful, I tried. So that's it. I'm not glamorous. I don't have any sign-off signature or anything, and I don't have the desire to. But I'm so fucking lonely that I do wish that I could mold myself into a brand if it meant just getting even the slightest bit of community where I wasn't just an abused nothing and nobody. So